welcome to JFP Sports, where fantasy and sports talk lives. Well, what a beautiful day out. It's a little chilly in the tri-state area, Rick.
Yeah, no, I know. It's been freezing out here. I think we're wearing sweatshirts inside. You know, I actually just got my heat on for the first time yesterday, October 15th. I'm in one of those old people buildings where the systems are a little
Do you have the old people stench?
It's not only the old people stench, I also have the old people air conditioning and heat, so I got to wait for the building to kind of switch it. It's October 15th and April 15th, so we just hit the mark. It was like 30 degrees in my apartment this past Sunday watching football.
Oy vey.
Yeah, right. That's what I hear too. I hear oy vey and the lack of communication between the building and the people.
Rick, we have a exciting show for our fans, and first, in the NFL, what did we learn? What did you learn, Rick? Because I learned a lot. I learned that in the NFL 2018, you need speed. I mean, you could just see that was evident. The Tyreek game, Patriots on Sunday night. I mean, he just blew by guys, leaving them in the dust. I want to get your take, but that was a great back-and-forth game. But nowadays, in the NFL 2018, it's all about speed.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That game was a lot of fun to watch. My dad actually kind of went to sleep. I tried to get him to stay up, but he just wasn't into it. It ended late, just a little after 11:40, so I get why these games start late. I think 8:20 might be a little late. I think 8 o'clock would make a much bigger difference, but that's besides the point. No, speed kills from what we see. Two things relating to speed, Tyreek Hill, and the fact that if we look at the Dallas game, if we backtrack earlier in the day, speed killed there. You had Cole Beasley running across the field, and that was the worst that I've seen the Jaguars defense since they really became, a thing. Honestly, so
I thought I was watching the Jets defense from 2 weeks ago.
No, and that was the ironic thing. And after the game, they all asked Jalen Ramsey what was going on, and he said, "I don't know." And he kind of came off as a sore loser. I mean, you
talk so much big game before, but then when you get your brains beaten to death, you have nothing to say.
No, exactly. And at some point, you got to look at yourself and say, A, if I'm going to continue to talk, I've got to answer the questions, or B, maybe I should quiet it down a little bit. So he may have to find a little bit of a balance. And look, I really thought the Jaguars were going to go in there and really knock their socks off, more or less, and that's not what happened. I mean, Dallas is 3-0 at home and 0-3 on the road. And since before this season, Dak was 12-4 on the road. So things have kind of reversed. That 12-4 through his first two seasons, his 16 road starts. So when we kind of look at the Cowboys and the way they're progressing, they're kind of doing what an average team should do: win at home and lose on the road. In the past, when they were good and they had the O-line and everything was flowing, they were really good on the road too. They were road warriors. So I think what we can take away from Week 6 is teams that were struggling, let's pump the brakes, like the Steelers. They look like they're on the rise. And teams that started off hot, like the Tennessee Titans, got their socks rocked by the Ravens. They couldn't score.
Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah, so right, and we looked at the Ravens, Joe Flacco, and Cleveland, and all of a sudden, they didn't put up a ton of points, but going to Tennessee in bad weather, 21-0, Baltimore looked like they might have the best defense in the league. So,
absolutely.
So I think as we approach the midway point in a week or two, we've really got to kind of start separating the pretenders from the contenders.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. And mentioning the speed, how about that 49er game last night? I mean, are you kidding me? Yes, the Packers got away with one last night, but this just tells you that they will not be going anywhere unless that man is behind center, and he's a bad man, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. I mean, could you just imagine this team without Aaron Rodgers? We saw Brett Hundley last year. Could you imagine Deshaun Kaiser coming in? That team is putrid on offense, and to a team of San Francisco who just lost Jimmy G, who have no offense, no running back. They have old-timer Alfred Morris back there. So I love the game last night because I love watching points, but that just showed me that the Packers are nothing without Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I didn't really give the Niners much of a chance either. The first time C.J. Beathard started, he started against the Chargers a few weeks ago.
They made him look like Steve Young out there.
No, and so two things are coming to fruition. A, C.J. Beathard isn't as bad as we originally thought. Or B, what could this 49er team have been if Jimmy G was still healthy? I think two of those questions need to be asked. Jimmy G got a lot of bad rep for, he got a bad rep, I should say, for the stuff that he was doing off this, in the offseason with dating the porn star, and maybe he was getting some of the limelight that he had never gotten in New England because they're very tightly knit.
Of course.
But at the same time, this team could have been something special. I think they could have been better than Seattle. The way they played last night, if they have Jimmy G, they're better than Seattle, and I think they would have been the second best team in that division. We know the Rams are, I think we both agree, the Rams are the best team in the league.
Absolutely.
But to be second to them, it's not that bad. Yeah, I think that could have been a wild card team, so it's kind of a shame to see where they've gone, because last night, you're right, I think they lost the game more than the Packers won it, because they had a 3rd and 15, Rodgers gets sacked, illegal contact against Richard Sherman. All of a sudden, they moved down the field. Right, and I'd like to ask the question, where was Mason Crosby last week when I had him fantasy-wise? This week, he shows up. He's the second coming of Justin Tucker all over again. Yeah. He thinks he's Adam Vinatieri. He makes everything. Last week, he can't make one, but that's besides
That's life in the NFL, I suppose.
No, exactly. But I think, the conclusion is this Packer team is not a Super Bowl team. We don't know if they're the best team in the division even. And the division's tough. I mean, you got the Lions are no joke.
The upstart Bears.
Right. The Bears, I think, are maybe a year or two ahead of where they thought. And you add a Vikings team that was already good last year. Now you obviously upgrade between Bradford and Keenum to Kirk Cousins. You're obviously going to be better there. So I think the Packers might be looking at a potential wild card, but I can't see them winning the division.
No, not me either. Okay, so moving on. We got a little Jets and Vikings preview. But first, we like to look back. And Sam Darnold, Ricky. I mean, we had mentioned your Ravens. My Jets got a win Sunday evening, and I was on them because every time, we mentioned it in our last show that the Jets get a big win, they always find a way to lose the next week. I don't know if that's discipline. I don't know if it's a letdown, but they always seem to always lay an egg the following week. This past week was different. They came to play. I mean, you saw it on the first drive. Before I even got my popcorn or beer, you had Mo Claiborne taking one back for a pick six. I loved it. I thought I was dreaming again. I thought we were back in the Detroit game. But I just want to get your thoughts. Darnold looked superb. I thought some of the throws he made were better than a rookie would ever make. And I see this team maybe at 500. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. But what did you take from this game? Because I took a team that didn't lay an egg, came to play. And yes, on a couple of drives, I thought they were going to lose it because the Jets were up by so many, and then they were letting down. But definitely I could see them blowing that game, but they didn't. In years past, they would blow that game, but they didn't. Let me get your reaction.
I think at the same time, when we look at the Jets, they have 3 wins this season. The Lions on the road week 1 when everyone was booking their Super Bowl ticket the next morning. The Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts. I would agree. I think we could agree here that all 3 of those teams are mediocre at best.
Correct.
Maybe the best team, if they put it together, would be Denver, I would like to say, but Vance Joseph's even on the hot seat. I think we look at the Jets, and they've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat, and they've lost to the teams they're supposed to lose to. I even include Detroit on the road as a game I thought they would have lost. Mm-hmm. I think that's a positive sign. In the NFL, I've always said you win the games you're supposed to win, you lose the games you're supposed to lose, and a few breaks here and there, you make the playoffs.
Correct.
At the same time, and the good teams find more breaks.
They find a way to win.
Correct.
That's because they're better than the rest.
Exactly. And I think the Jets are in that position. I think we're going to look for, at 3-3, I would say this is a pleasant surprise. I said 5-11, 6-10. It doesn't look at this point like it's going to end up that way. They still have the Patriots twice. Those will probably be 2 losses. But at the same time, if I said 5-11, 6-10, somewhere around that range, you're going to lose to New England twice, but they have multiple opportunities. You still have the Bills, and you have the Dolphins again. the Dolphins actually looked decent with Brock Osweiler this week.
Oh, my God. But you know what it was? I thought that was more of them catching the Bears off guard.
I agree.
You had Osweiler named starter not even 2 hours before game time. I believe that this week he'll just become Brock Osweiler again.
Right, and it's kind of ironic, when teams prepare for Ryan Tannehill, who clearly is much better than Brock Osweiler. So anyone who's coming on the air today saying Brock Osweiler should provide competition, he shouldn't. And the second thing regarding that issue is the Bears, who've been amazing all season, each and every week, even against that bad man Aaron Rodgers.
Oof.
They have an off week. Jacksonville's had a few off weeks up to this point. So we look at the Bears, and I think they prepare for Tannehill, and they got Brock, and they might have let up a little bit mentally. And again, Brock Osweiler threw 2 passes that were about 4 yards they broke for touchdowns. So it's not like he was gunning the ball down the field, and you had guys like Prince Amukamara and who couldn't cover. It was just like broken tackles along the way. Khalil Mack didn't do all that much, and that's what we talked about with the Bears. If it's not Khalil Mack, we don't know what type of defense it is.
No, absolutely.
So I think when we circle back to the Jets, because I think the Jets and the Bears are in similar situations. I think they're both 6-7 win teams at the heart of it. I just think with a guy like Khalil Mack, who is a game changer, offense or defense, he's a game changer. He will help to propel them get some of those better breaks. While on the Jets, I don't necessarily see that game breaker, whether it's on offense or defense. Maybe Darnold becomes that or Trubisky becomes that. But we know the offensive skill group for the Jets is lacking, definitely compared to Chicago's, and their defense isn't as good. So if I'm thinking, the way I'm looking at it, 8-8 would be nice for both of those teams when they didn't really expect all that much.
No, absolutely. And what makes the Jet fan, because I could speak very from that point of view, is that we have a franchise quarterback now. We see it. NFL insiders see it. This is a man that everyone wanted coming out of the draft. Now, the Browns thought otherwise, and the Jets got him. And I feel this is a reemergence, all right? I feel the Jet fans should be very confident, and here's why. Look at these numbers. 62.4 completion, okay? 16 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. You know whose statistics are those? Those are the 2016 rookie Carson Wentz statistics. They went 7-9 that year. There's no reason why this Jet team cannot go 7-9 or better. Darnold is on pace for a better completion percentage and more touchdowns, but more interceptions, of course. So here's where I'm saying and trying to correlate the two. I believe Darnold will be a Carson Wentz, but just needs the Carson Wentz talent around him. The Alshon Jeffrey, the Jay Ajayi, the Zach Ertz. On defense, the Michael Bennett and the Chris Longs and the Ronald Darbys. He's going to need that talent to be influctuated in. But for now's sake, things are looking up for the Jets fans and the Jets organization.
Well, it had to be looking up. You get a guy like Darnold, and it's all of a sudden looking up because we've seen what dregs of the earth they've had at quarterback prior to him. So there was no... Realistically, obviously you're a bigger Jet fan than I am, and I root for the Jets and New York teams, whatever, but there you have to look up. At some point, the Jets have failed so many times that you have to look up. So
can't go any lower.
Right, so I'm not going to give them credit for looking up because I think that would that's not fair to the other teams in the league who have done much more with their drafts. You brought up an interesting point regarding two things, with the Browns and the Wentz comparisons. The Eagles, I think they were higher on Carson Wentz when they drafted him than the Jets were higher on Darnold. Because the reports out of Philly were, we want Wentz early. And they made that a priority. I think they even traded up to make sure that happened.
Absolutely. They traded with the Rams, I think.
Right. And who actually had Goff at the time.
Well, what happened was they traded with the Rams, who then traded back with the Titans.
Right.
For Goff at 1, and they took Wentz at 2.
Right. So, and the Rams got their guy, and the Eagles got their guy, and it seems to have worked out for both situations. The Jets obviously didn't have to trade unless they really thought that Baker wasn't going to be taken and it was going to be Darnold. So I as a Jet fan, I'm not sure if they were sold on Darnold because the Eagles moved up, right? So they were showing you, look, we want this guy. And the Jets, maybe they just knew the Browns were going to take Baker,
right.
And they knew the Giants were gonna take Saquon, and you were more confident on the Giants because they kind of said, look, we like Eli right now. So you knew they probably weren't. It was the Browns. So I'm looking at the Jets. Did Darnold more fall into their hands? Or were they so confident that Baker was going to go 1? Because steam really picked up on Baker going 1 that week. It wasn't all of June, it wasn't like all leading up to it, throughout the basketball months, January, February, all that, because the Browns knew they were going to have one pick.
Absolutely.
It really picked up at the end. So I'm kind of curious to know what you think of that.
Well, to me, I think it's a little bit of both. First, as we go back to March or early February, I believe that the Jets had a win-win situation. All right, you were picking in the top 6. That was win. Also, you had a team in the Indianapolis Colts who didn't need a quarterback. They had Andrew Luck. So they could get that same player in Quentin Nelson from 3 to 6.
Who's been pretty good for them.
Who's been pretty good as well. So it was just an obvious team to switch with. That's number 1. Number 2, I think Maccagnan fell in love with 3 quarterbacks. That's what my guys tell me.
Well, that's a problem to me.
And it was Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Rosen third. And I believe that Maccagnan played the elimination game. If I'm at 3, I'm guaranteeing myself I'm going to get one of these 3 guys. And you know what? It's not a bad way to think of, because if you like all 3 of them, I don't think they thought they were going to get Darnold. Absolutely not. I think they really thought he was going to Cleveland. I would have said it would have been Baker Mayfield at 3. But the Browns took that situation away from the Jets to think of, and it made it an obvious choice at 3 to get our guy Sam Darnold.
No, I think it was an obvious choice, but someone told me once, and I'm not going to say names. It's similar to from a male perspective. You have 3 girls that you like. You really don't love any of them because you like all 3.
Right.
And I think that's what the Jets, you brought up that situation. Again, we're just speculating. We don't know. We don't know what Maccagnan's thinking. Maybe he was sending out smoke that he would love to have Baker at 3, and maybe the Browns said, we really want him to, and we don't know what was going on.
And they knew they wouldn't get him back at 4.
Right, exactly. So, and you knew the Jets were going to probably take, because I don't think they really love Josh Allen, and
it was going to be one of the 3, Rosen, Darnold.
Right, and I don't think they really wanted Rosen. I really don't think that. So you knew the Giants were going to take Saquon unless the Browns were going to take him, but they just brought in Carlos Hyde and and had Duke Johnson, so they weren't doing that. So I think you're right. The Jets kind of fell into that whoever is there
left.
But as a Jet fan, I don't love that. I'd rather them have been aggressive and said, look, this is our guy. We're going to make sure that we get him.
Right.
But look, it's working out. I think it's working out for both teams. The Browns haven't won 2 games since 1906.
Right.
And the Jets sit here at 3-3. They will not make the playoffs. I guarantee you they won't make the playoffs. But at the same time, you're right. The future is brighter.
Right. It's brighter than it was in April.
It hasn't been this bright since Mark Sanchez had that defense and that run game to play with.
Totally agree with you. So, moving on. And actually, to Ricky's point there, top 5 of those draft picks are actually all working out. You had Mayfield at 1, Barkley at 2, Darnold at 3, 4 you had Denzel Ward, and 5 is Bradley Chubb. So those top 5 guys are really looking on point.
If I had to rank, I think Denzel Ward would be number 1.
Wow, you think so? Okay.
The reason I say that
shutdown corner
is they have a shutdown corner to add to an already good defense. I think Saquon is clearly the most talented, and he's been the most productive. But at the same time, we always looked at the Browns and said, it's Joe Hayden and no one else. Now they have other pieces, and they didn't really have the corner. They didn't play well against the Chargers this weekend, which I was a little surprised by. That defense is not a blowover defense like it used to be. Saquon's obviously the most talented, and he's been the most productive. I just look at it, and he's not making the impact because the team's so bad. Right. So that's why I would say in terms of impact, it might be Denzel Ward. Because Saquon, whether he's there or not, the Giants are probably still 1-5.
Okay. If I had to do it again, it'd be Darnold at 1. Just because a franchise quarterback is
Well, I'm looking at it this year.
Right.
From what we've seen
okay,
this year.
Okay.
And what did I tell you about Darnold? He will have 20 interceptions. I don't know what he's on pace for.
If we're going by just 2018, then I just go Barkley, because I think in a year or two he could be the best running back in the sport.
He's the most talented for sure. I think better more talented
than Gurley.
I agree.
And you know what? Scary to say, I think eventually better than Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, and that's another story for another time. It doesn't seem like he's coming back during this bye week either. So, no, again, I would just say the most impact, as we've seen through the first 6 weeks, has been Denzel Ward. But, you could make the argument for Saquon, too.
Okay, folks. Moving on, we have the Giants preview. They have a Monday night matchup in Week 7. They're going to Atlanta. Rick, this past Thursday night, they look atrocious. You have OBJ hitting himself with an air conditioner cooler in the head. You have Pat Shurmur saying that he didn't think that what his guys did giving up is a problem. Okay, that I find is a major problem, because that's just an indictment on the coaching staff.
Well, he's also an effort guy. So if you preach effort and you guys don't give you effort, what are you? What are you doing?
What are you there for?
Yeah, no, it's shaped. I'll finish the rest of it. Finish what Dean Annis gave us.
So all in all, they put out a horrible showing against Philadelphia. Your take of, is this Giants team ever going to turn around? And if so, when? Because them traveling to hot Atlanta in the Dome doesn't look too good for them with a hot Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. They just lost Devontae Freeman. For you Devontae Freeman owners out there, he's just been placed on the IR.
Which that's a minimum. That's 8 games. So
8 games. He can come back, but still,
you need him in the fantasy playoffs. And would you trust him at that point? You could. I think you could safely drop him.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, going back to reality, I feel. How did the Giants even turn this around going to Atlanta?
They're not going to. We gave them the benefit of the doubt the last time out.
Well, because they're in a weak division.
Right. We gave them the benefit of the doubt the last time out when they played the Eagles at home. We said, look, this is kind of what they need to do to get it done. We thought with the weather that it would be a lot of pound the ball with Saquon.
Power running.
Which, that's kind of what it was. And they just couldn't get a stop. So, look, we criticize the Giants' offense, then they show up, and the defense doesn't show up. Then we criticize the defense the next week, then the offense doesn't show up. They haven't really put it together yet. The only game they've won was against another horrendous Houston Texans team.
Yeah.
So we look at it. Look, they're going to Atlanta. Atlanta barely escaped versus not the Falcons. Versus the Bucks. Excuse me, for his famous Jameis. That's what that was what the F was for.
Still taking the Crawford shot. Yeah.
He actually played pretty well. He threw for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks, but the Bucks played a very good game. Matt Bryan actually strained his hamstring, so the Falcons signed Giorgio Tavecchio, believe it or not.
Ooh, the former Oakland Raider.
Yeah. So, look, they're not going into Atlanta to win. Matt Ryan will. I think to safely say the Falcons would have put up 30 points is a safe bet. I don't know how the Giants, I don't know how Eli is capable. We look at the two teams, right? You compare them. The Giants' run game is better, but both teams have offensive weapons. They both don't have a defense. When you break it down, I think the difference is the quarterback, and I take 10 Matt Ryans over 1 Eli. It's not even close. So I don't know what they're going to do. The rest of the division all won this week. Washington at home versus Carolina. Dallas whooped Jacksonville, which I think is a one-off, but they showed they still have some promise. And the Eagles took care of the Giants, obviously, on the road. So what do you have a different take? Because I look at this Falcon team, who I don't think is all that great because they have no defense and maybe a struggling run game. They're clearly much better than the Giants right now.
No, absolutely. And you know what? This all stems from the top, okay? You had John Mara, the owner of the New York Giants, come out.
I don't know what he's doing.
Coming out and saying, quote, I think he needs to do a little more playing and a little less talking. Referring to that, obviously Odell should keep everything internal and keep it on the field. But just as the owner, I feel like now you're being hypocritical because now you're dumbing yourself down like the player and going out to media sources and having all this stuff come out. I mean, the Giants don't need this right now. The Giants need wins. The Giants need a game plan to beat somebody other than the Houston Texans. They'll play them every week. So I believe I can't see them win on Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons have better receivers, have a receiver in Julio Jones who got paid like OBJ, that doesn't act like a moron, who actually goes out there and performs. 2, they have the better quarterback in Matty Ice, who's having the one of the best seasons, top 5 season. I don't see how the Giants go into Atlanta and get a win. I mean, they're being outcoached. Anything you could think of is going wrong for the New York Football Giants. And I don't know what will it take to turn it around, but I know what they don't have, and they don't have a leader.
So, just, D Natus pulled this up while you were just killing the Giants like I was. Julio Jones is making less per year.
But he did get paid this
He did get paid.
Yes.
And he's playing on a lot of those 1 or 2 year deals. He signed long term, but they continue to restructure him, especially as Matt Ryan just got paid too. And maybe they pay Devontae, but they're going to end up paying, Vic Beasley and Keanu Neal and some of their other defensive guys. Julio Jones, who doesn't have a touchdown yet this season, has 707 yards. That puts him second place, 5 behind, I'm in my feelings, Adam Thielen, who's having a fantastic year. Odell, who's in 9th, so you'd say he's 100 yards behind him? He's over 200 yards behind him. So now, you look at Odell and you say, fine, Odell probably has the touchdowns because Julio doesn't have any. Well, that's great because Odell Beckham's got 1 touchdown. So maybe if he was making it up for the red zone production, sure. He's not up but he's got 1 touchdown. So we look at the guys who are making less than Odell now. Adam Thielen making less than Odell. So if we look at the top 10, 1 through 10. Julio Jones is probably on the same pace. DeAndre Hopkins is making less. Tyreek Hill is certainly making less. He's still on his first deal that he got.
He looks like he should be making more than all of them.
Juju Smith-Schuster, not getting paid.
Right.
Devontae Adams got a nice payday, but not nearly Odell money. Robert Woods, not getting paid. Robert Woods was a shell of himself in Buffalo. Michael Thomas, not getting paid, still on his rookie deal from, I think, the Ohio State. Then you have Odell and Brandon Cooks. Look, I can go up and down, guys that are right there. Moral of the story is, I understand it's not all his fault. But at some point, you want to take I think with the money comes some sort of leadership role.
Comes responsibility.
I agree with him there. Why do you think there's always a video of Julio Jones working out, and I've never heard the man speak? Julio Jones is similar to Kawhi Leonard. I don't know if you listened to it. Kawhi Leonard laughed for the first time in Toronto when he first got there. Literally, I've never heard him laugh before. But that's because he's always just working. He's about business. He's about winning. And that might be the San Antonio Spurs way. But Odell, take a page out of the Julio Jones playbook. Now, granted, the Falcons haven't won a Super Bowl. They got there. But Odell, the 1 playoff game he's been in...
They're in better position than the Giants.
Right. That's true. And they also have the better quarterback. He's been to 1 playoff game. That was the infamous boat game. And then he was dropping all those passes. So look, I think he might be the most talented wide receiver in football.
When does it come time for this man to grow up?
It doesn't.
I think he can be a good kid. I'm not saying he's done.
Well, he's not a bad kid.
No, he doesn't do bad things. It's just he does immature things. Things that a $95 million player does not make. I heard once in a Spider-Man movie, with great power comes great responsibility. And it's so true. These kids look up to you. He's a rock star playing football. That's what it is. Everyone wants to have their hair like OBJ.
His interview was with Lil Wayne.
Right. Everyone wants to look like OBJ. He's having, Ricky said, an interview with Lil Wayne. I mean, the guy's a rock star.
It's a football interview, and he's got a rapper there.
The guy is famous. Let's say what it is. Call a spade a spade. But you're not acting like you're supposed to be getting that kind of money. Someone who's getting 95 plus 100 million is a leader of their team. This man is not a leader. And I believe, does he have great talent? Absolutely. But T.O. had great talent too. And he tore up some teams. Just want to put that out there.
So, to our next fantasy topic, we're going to do our potential studs for the week. I'll give you mine first because I introduced it. No other reason than that. I'm going to go with a guy who I just mentioned. I'm going to go, not just mentioned, we talked about him a little bit earlier. It's kind of a group of fantasy players because I think this game's going to have a ton of points between the Bengals and the Chiefs. If I had to rank these studs, I would go Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, then Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill's a very boomer
So
bust.
basically the Chiefs
Right.
offense.
And right, exactly. So, but if I had to pick, I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes. We mentioned him a little bit earlier. This game is going to be a shootout. I think the over-under is 51. If you can get it, get it now, because I think it might end up at 54 or 55. Look, the great thing about the Chiefs...
I might take it.
Yeah, no, now we're in New Jersey, we can legally. The great thing about the Chiefs in terms of fantasy, their defense is just so horrendous that they will force Patrick Mahomes. Like we said at the beginning, one of the biggest things is they've got to play an offense that can put up the points. Their defense was so bad, we could put up the points. Like, it was great to see Patrick Mahomes finally have to throw it down the field. He missed Kareem Hunt earlier in the game, but then he gets Kareem Hunt later. He gets Tyreek Hill on a few big plays. Like, it's going to keep him relevant. Patrick Mahomes will clearly have the most fantasy points for a quarterback, PPR standard, one quarterback. I don't care if this guy's got to play kicker. He will get you the most points, and that's my stud of the week. Big scoring game at Arrowhead between the Bengals and the Chiefs.
My stud of week 6, because you can't talk about the future without reminiscing about the past. And this guy killed me Monday night. Davante Adams, my boy. I gotta give it to you.
Did you win this week?
No, I lost. I was up 25 points.
Davante Adams did it?
And Davante Adams was the kryptonite. I blame Kyle Shanahan and that play calling at the end.
It's also, again, we talk about game script. If the Packers were winning by 10, they might be running it with Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery.
But losing just made it worse. The worst.
And they don't have Cobb over the middle, and they don't have, Geronimo Allison, and he doesn't trust Valdez-Scantling, so it was Davante Adams.
It was the perfect recipe for
right,
disaster.
and through the first 3 quarters, the Niners did a decent job on
the first 4.5.
Yeah, well, 3.5.
Well, yeah, it was 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and these idiots of San Francisco run the ball. There was a 9-man box. Everybody in the stadium knew you're going to run the ball because you're so scared to give it back to Rodgers. You know what you do right there? You win what got you there. You do a nice play action and you go deep over the top to Marquise Goodwin. If it doesn't work out, no one expects you to win anyway. But you see what I'm trying to say? You can't stop playing the way you have been the whole game and start getting tentative. And that's why San Francisco lost. They should have won that game. They got scared because the other man, number 12, on the sideline is waiting, seething to get back on the field. And you know what? He did what he does. That's it.
Well,
the man's a bad man.
If you guys couldn't figure it out, Mr. Puma lost, but
yes,
he's going to give you his stud for this week.
Yes, I will. And thank God that Jesus made it tomorrow. So now for week 7, I really love this character, my boy, Alvin and the Kamara Chipmunk. Dude, I'm telling you. Number 41 is going to get into this game script. I know the Baltimore Ravens are probably one of the top teams in stopping the run, but you know what? Alvin Kamara doesn't only run the ball. He lines up in the slot. The Saints do a lot of technical things.
A lot of Le'Veon Bell type of
absolutely. A lot of technical things. A lot of dress rehearsal things, a lot of moving parts. I believe that the Saints will be putting up points. I think this is going to be a shootout, actually. One of the games that is going to go really high scoring because their defense is horrible this year, the Saints. But I believe that Kamara is going to have himself a game, especially how Sean Payton was questioned about Kamara's usage. I mean, they only got him, 9 touches in Week 5, that Monday night game against the Redskins.
I think it was a little bit of they had fresh legs in Mark Ingram,
right? And they wanted to use him. And I know, Alvin Kamara has a slender body compared to Mark Ingram, so he can't take the hits as a Mark Ingram could take. But I believe that going forward for fantasy owners, for Saints fans out there that Kamara will be used more. I think Sean Payton just gave him a breath and realized that they were upon the bye, which would give Kamara even more rest. So I think freshly off that bye, Kamara's going to have himself a game. Get ready for a nice 35-point game from Alvin Kamara. 2 touchdowns. Hopefully.
I think it'll be a little higher scoring than most people predict. The Ravens have been moving the ball.
Absolutely.
The
I think
Saints
a
aren't all that
Smokey
great.
Brown game.
Yeah, no, he struggled this week, but it seemed like after so many people were getting on Michael Crabtree and where's Crabtree, they kind of
reversed it.
They kind of said, yeah, let's get Crabtree involved. And they got Willie Snead involved too, but I think Joe Flacco's main target is still John Brown.
All right, my friend. Well, moving from football, we're going to have a little MLB playoffs. ALNL. The AL is shaping up to be the Red Sox in Houston, who we're heading to Game 3 in Houston. Actually, tonight or it's tomorrow night?
No, it started already.
We'll
get
already.
D. Nannis to give us a quick score.
D. Nannis, give me a score, bro. All right? The Rays have been out of it since August. What do we got here? 2-1 Boston in the bottom of the third. So we're in the bottom of the third at Minute Maid, and Boston is winning. I think, I really originally predicted them winning the series. But that's a fun series, and definitely now Milwaukee and Los Angeles in the NL, Milwaukee is leading the series by 2-1. How is that bullpen getting through these games? I mean, Milwaukee has a shutdown bullpen, better than the Yankees.
Yeah, no, at some point, we kind of say the better team wins out, but I don't think they're better than the Dodgers. I think they're hotter than the Dodgers.
Absolutely.
And look, the Red Sox were hot and Houston were hot, but nothing like this Brew Crew. I mean, this team they won like 14 games before the Dodgers finally got them, which was a home run courtesy of Justin Turner in late innings, and the Brewers were up in that one too. I mean, this guy Josh Hader, he's reminding me of what Andrew Miller was a few years ago. I mean, this guy, if he gets a pop-up, people are disappointed because he's not getting a strikeout.
Right.
So if I have to look at it, I'll still stick with the Dodgers-Boston prediction. I'm confident in Boston. I'm not so confident in the Dodgers right now. I mean, Walker Buehler got touched up a little bit last night. Like guys like Woodruff, who no one had heard of.
How about Manny? How about Manny not running out the ball? I love Manny, but what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
Well, the Dodgers had a chance last night. They had, there was 4-0, and Jeremy Jeffress has struggled, who had been 8-1 with 15 saves, unbelievable all season. What happens at that point? They bring in Jeffress, they get a single by Turner, a double by Machado. Cody Bellinger pops up. Now they have the bases loaded. Another batter later. Yaz Grandal strikes out. Dozier strikes out. So they're just not coming up with the big plays. And it looks like it might be Milwaukee that's going to push their way through to the World Series.
Yeah, I'm staying pat with my picks, Milwaukee and Boston. I just have one of those crazy feelings it's going to be that World Series. Or, we could see a repeat of last year in Houston and the Dodgers. I believe both of these series are going to Game 7. Rick, so moving on, we've got a little NBA preview with Ricky P. NBA starts tonight, my friend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There are a lot of storylines that I'd like to touch upon, but you do your thing first because I know you're not the NBA guy, so we'll get you off the airwaves quick. Who do you like for your finals prediction?
I love for the 2019.
Because we know you're not going to pay attention until June anyway.
Well, I mean, it's a league of the have and the have-nots. You could make me go to sleep tomorrow, and I'll wake up in June, and I'll tell you that it's going to be the Toronto Raptors facing off against the Golden State Warriors. I believe these teams are going to win in the 60s, no doubt about it. Filled with talent, Kyle Lowry.
Kawhi. Well, Kyle and Kawhi.
Kyle and Kawhi. Jesus, I can't get these names down. But yeah, Kyle and Kawhi, I think, is one of the best tandems in the league, other than the Big Six now in Golden State.
Yeah, they've got a lot of guys.
But I think that's a team. And now you have LeBron James out of the East. So I feel like the only one in the Toronto Raptors and Drizzy Drake's way are the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
And I believe that's a young team, but I think Toronto will persevere. New coach, new feeling in the building. Kawhi Leonard, as we said, is touchdown in Toronto, Canada. I believe they go to the finals against the Golden State Warriors. And how could you make a case against Golden State?
So you think Kyrie getting hurt and Gordon Hayward getting hurt for the Celtics last year might take them some time to get going?
Yes.
And it might be because they had Terry Rozier and guys step up, but now you have Kyrie back. You have Gordon Hayward back, so it's going to take some time. Do you think the 76ers really pose a threat?
I mean, I love their little mini big three. You know, you got Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Fultz.
Right, and Fultz and JJ Redick still there. So, right, Fultz seems to have kind of come along, so maybe the Sixers provide, so they don't really pose a threat to you. Do you think Kawhi Leonard is the best player in the Eastern Conference at this moment, now that LeBron's out? I
think you got to say because think about it. I mean, other than Kyrie Irving. I'm thinking Kyle Lowry.
Right.
No,
I'm confused.
Yeah. Irving, I think, is the best. But him coming off the injury just bumps up Kawhi.
Yeah. No, I'm happy you're off the air now because all the NBA fans want to cry. There are a few headlines that I'm looking forward to before I give my NBA predictions. I'm not going to talk about LeBron and the Lakers because we know what type of thrill and show that's going to be every night. So I have three more that I'm just going to touch on. The first is the Celtics. You have Terry Rozier, who's going to get less minutes. You have Marcus Smart, who's going to get less minutes. Tatum, to some degree, will also get less minutes with Gordon Hayward. Danny Ainge has an issue on his hand. The first one regarding the Celtics is, can you maintain Kyrie throughout the whole season because he's injury prone? It's not really his doing, but you've got to manage his minutes. If he starts out with 35, 40 minutes a night, it's not going to work. You got to really get up 25, 30 and maintain him and keep him fresh. The other one is, it's more on Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge. It's a combination. You've got to make sure that these guys gel because they have the most talent in the East. Clearly, it's not even close. They should be the favorites, and I'm sure they'll win 62 to 65 games. You know, beat up on the Knicks and the Nets and all the other
the Knicks are atrocious.
Yeah, and
I'm not even an NBA guy, and I can tell you that they stink.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. They got to make sure these guys gel because they already built something great last year, and you're kind of adding two new superstars. Gordon Hayward got hurt in the first game of the season last year on a gruesome injury. Obviously not his fault or his doing. And then you have Kyrie, who's been banged up his entire career, and he said first he wanted to sign with the Knicks maybe in the offseason, but now he's saying if Boston will have him, he'll do that. So I think that's the Celtics are a storyline to watch. More of gelling and, making sure everyone gets their minutes. The other one is Carmelo Anthony now in Houston. You lost Right, you lost Trevor Ariza and Luke Richard Maba Amute. So you bring in Melo. I think offensively they're an upgrade. Defensively they're clearly a downgrade. So look, anyone who watched the playoffs last year saw that the Rockets very easily could have beaten the Warriors had Chris Paul James Harden was balling and had Chris Paul not gotten hurt. And it took a historically bad shooting night for the Rockets to still lose.
Those are the fun overs to take.
Yeah, well, they're high. Well, they're usually even higher than that. So I think, what kind of impact does Melo have? If he comes off the bench, does he understand his role, or is he a problem in the locker room? I think Chris Paul is the best point guard he's ever played with, so I think he's going to kind of stay under that tutelage, understand where he's going, because this is the best team that he's ever been on. Understand that, look, you're not the same guy you used to be. You're clearly not the same defensive guy you used to be. And so we'll see what type of impact he has. And the last one is these three superstars: Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and Kawhi Leonard. Where do they end up? Does Kawhi might end up in LA? Is it with the Lakers? Does he want to play second fiddle, or does he go to the Clippers where he's the guy? Does Kevin Durant go to the Lakers? Or does he maybe go to his hometown, the Wizards? Or does he stay in Golden State? And Anthony Davis, say Kevin Durant does leave. Does Anthony Davis say, I want to be a part of that franchise, I want to win? Or does Anthony Davis say, Kawhi, let's go to the Clippers together? I think the free agency is going to, we know LeBron settled in LA with the Lakers, and he's not going anywhere for 4 years. So I think those big three free agents might really dictate what we see for the next few years to come.
No, I like that. And you know what else I like that not a lot of people mention? Carmelo is actually with his old coach in D'Antoni. So
which didn't go so well the first time around here in New York.
You know what? Yeah, it just takes you one time to learn, and I believe D'Antoni knows him and will know how to use him off the bench. And he's somewhere there where he's happy with his friends.
Right, exactly, right. The Banana Boat Boys, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, James Harden, and not James Harden, Dwayne Wade and LeBron, excuse me, not James Harden. He has James Harden now, and he's got one of the Banana Boat Boys with him. I think this is the best situation for him. It didn't work well in Oklahoma City last year. I think it's going to be better. I don't know if the Rockets will be better. They need, hopefully Chris Paul stays healthy and Melo does provide that impact. But I'm going to go with Golden State and I'm going to go with the Celtics. Okay. The Celtics, to me, are the only team in either conference that are a threat. They have a lot of firepower. Their issue is if DeMarcus Cousins comes back healthy, even at the beginning of 2019 or the end of 2018, you will have Golden State. You will have 5 All-Stars in the starting lineup. That has never been done before. If they don't score 100, yeah, no, seriously. And then you have guys like Andre Iguodala off the bench. It's going to be an issue for a lot of teams, especially the teams even out west. So that's not Houston. So
the over is going to be 300.
Yeah. So and they might do it themselves. So I'm going to say Golden State and the Celtics, and once again I'll pick the Warriors to win it all.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
But tune in tonight. First game. Russell Westbrook is out.
Okay.
It's going to be Paul George and himself against the Warriors on ring night. Doesn't really seem like a fair matchup. And then you got the Sixers in Boston.
That's interesting. You know what? I like watching the Sixers because it's young, enthusiastic guys, and I love Joel Embiid.
And we'll see, hopefully, a healthy Kyrie. We'll see Gordon Hayward, who we haven't seen in 2 years. So I think the 8 o'clock early time slot will be better than the 10:30 later time slot.
Okay, Rick, we're at our pick'em segment time of the telecast, and you had one game to pick this weekend, Week 7 in the NFL. Who are you going with?
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings -3 at the New York Jets.
That's not a bad one. That's not a bad one.
Look, we know the Vikings can score. It's a matter of can they get Sam Darnold in trouble? And I think the answer is yes. The reason I say that is because what is my quote that I've always said? The Jets are the Jets. What that means is the minute a single ounce of prosperity comes their way, they manage to disappoint you. And at 3-3, as Mr. Puma himself has said to me, things are looking up, which I completely agree. This is the game where they will let you down. This is very similar to a home matchup they had against Miami. Ryan Tannehill looked like the second coming of Dan Marino. Right. I think Kirk Cousins will look like the second coming of Mr. One. You want to tell me?
Probably
Dante Culpepper.
Oh, yeah.
You should know. Another Minnesota Viking.
Yeah, he's great.
He's got weapons.
2002, what was it? 2001 Madden cover.
Or Brett Favre, who was a Jet too. But no, in all seriousness, maybe Dalvin Cook comes back this week, but they have Thielen, they have Rudolph.
I don't think they need him. But
right, exactly. They don't need him. Latavius Murray is good enough. And that Vikings defense will definitely force an interception or two. So I'm going to take the Vikings -3. Maybe someone could find a -2.5 out there. We'll see.
Definitely when you look at these lines, especially, and when you look at football teams as a whole, you have to look with objective eyes. You can't have emotion behind it. And to Ricky's point, I absolutely agree with him. These are the kind of games that the Jets get you riled up about, and then they'll go out there flat. So, though I believe in him, and I will pick against the Jets as well, I just doing that so, like last week, hopefully this works in reverse, and I'm wrong, and the Jets go out there and shut everybody up, including Ricky and myself.
Well, that's not going to happen.
My pick for this week is actually the London game. The Tennessee Titans go over to London with the LA Chargers, not the San Diego Chargers. The LA Chargers going to London. Right now the line is -6.5, and the Titans are getting plus, obviously. But I like the plus. So I'm going with the Titans, +6.5. That's my pick. I believe it's too many points for the Chargers. I believe they're coming off a big win against the Browns. And you know what? It's still October. The Chargers still heartbreak people. That's what it is. That's how the Chargers play. They're like 6-0 in November and December, but in
How did you
September,
take the Titans after this?
I know,
after
but
this past week?
that's life in the NFL. Some weeks teams look abysmal. Look at the Baltimore Ravens against the Browns 2 weeks ago. That game was atrocious that the Ravens played, and then they come out and spank the Titans. I believe this will go in the opposite direction. The Chargers will look like you know what, and the Titans will come on top. Defensive game, I see 17-16 Titans.
All right, we'll see. You say low scoring.
Yeah, I say low scoring because...
Which I think that's the way the Titans would have to
win. That's what I'm saying. So if the
they
Titans
can't match points.
Right, they can't go point for point. Right now, I don't know what's going on with that offensive line. Coughlin and Luan, they have talent on that line. I don't know why they're not getting to protect Mariota. I think the Ravens had 11 sacks or something like that.
Franchise record.
I mean, that's crazy. I don't even think Luck got that sacked.
No, I mean, at that point, that's a combination of the O-line, Mariota, scheming. 11 sacks. That means he dropped back 11 times and was going to throw the ball, and he got sacked. I mean, that means he didn't even get the pass away.
Yeah, I say a big game, believe it or not, for Mr. 1, Derrick Henry. I believe no Joey Bosa still. I believe the one way to attack the Chargers is to just run it at them, run it down their throats, and play defense, which I expect the Titans to do, and I expect them to win this game by a low score. So I'll say 17-16, which is rare in 2018 football because now every game is like 33-30. But yeah, that's what I say.
High scoring. Most points scored through the first 6 weeks in the NFL.
Yeah, ever. I mean, that New England game would have told you 43-40.
Before we finish, would you even say it's a little too much? I would venture to say it's been a little too much. I think the flags are getting ridiculous, and football has completely changed.
I mean, football is becoming two-hand touch. I mean, this is what happens when you invest so much money into offensive players, predominantly the quarterback position, obviously, because they're the star-studded position. And owners just don't want their prized quarterback going down and having to cash in that insurance money. They don't want that happening. That hurts their merch, that hurts their franchise, and they're not winning any games. I alluded to it before. Could you imagine Rodgers not being on the Packers? Could you imagine Andrew Luck not being on the Colts? Could you imagine Tom Brady not being on the Patriots? Those hurt those teams and their capitalism. So I believe it's all about money at the end of the day, and I believe those guys sell offensive football, and this is an offensive league. Forget about defense now. That's why it's so rare for a team like the Ravens to have 11 sacks and shut out a team of the Titans, because that just doesn't happen this year or nowadays in football.
No, I know, and unfortunately, look, fans want to see points. I want to see points too. I don't want to see 17-14, but 43-40, that's ridiculous. And again, the Chiefs have a historically bad offense, but at the same time, historically bad defense, excuse me. But at the same time, like, there's Bill Belichick's a defensive coach. His team also gave up 40. So where do we go?
The going rate
here?
The going rate average is like 25-30. You're giving up.
Right, no, exactly. So, look, I don't...
That's why I believe that's the one edge that Baltimore has. They could stop you.
Right, and I think when we talk about playoffs, in every league, it's defense and pitching if it's baseball. But, like, the defense gets you.
And
like,
Baltimore has that.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of the experts, analysts, are saying, look, don't sleep on this Baltimore team because they do enough offensively. But at the same time...
They get the takeaways.
Right, they'll get you the a lot of the defenses now are bend, don't break. We'll let you move the ball between the 20s. But once you get to the red zone, we hold you to field goals. Baltimore hasn't given up a touchdown on defense in the second half yet this season. So that's 6 second halves. So at the same time, look, I don't care if you're the Chiefs, whoever. We've seen the Ravens go up to New England and win a game. But at the same time, look, you're going to have to go through a team like Baltimore that plays better defense. And it's tougher. And again, I want to see a guy like Mahomes in the playoffs where it's freezing outside, potentially snowing, a kid from Texas, try to get it done. So we'll see.
Yes. Okay, folks. Well, with that, like every good thing in this world, it must come to a conclusion. So it's time for this show to come to a conclusion. So please subscribe to JFP Sports on YouTube channel and add us on IG at JFP Sports. Please DM us your questions as we will answer them always on air. In the great words of Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Good day, folks.